from this computer. Okay, now tell Seth you're ready to start.
Seth, we're ready to start.
Lights, camera. All right, we'll call this meeting to order here. Item A, I think we got through that. We'll start then with item B, roll call.
So Seth,
If we're ready to go.
hold on one second.
All right.
Hold on one second, Seth. Where's my finger? There it is.
Celestine is asking for a pause. Okay.
Okay, so set current and then go to the next item. Next.
With a
Now
pause,
set current again.
that's being a man, is that a menopause?
You know what? I'm done with you. I'm done.
He's coming out
Host
hot.
and mute.
I said it every meeting.
Okay, Seth, we're in the roll call area now.
All right, sounds good. Roll call. Chair Seth here. Vice Chair Ned.
Here.
Alder Randy.
Present.
Corey.
Present.
All right, John.
Present.
Julia.
Present.
Cody.
Hidden here.
Cody.
Cody looks like he's here. Some mute button issues. Cool. Cody, can you hear us?
us?
Do you audio?
He's frozen now.
He's still moving.
Is he? Oh, barely.
He looks frozen on.
Okay.
Oh,
I
he's
froze.
active on, yeah, he's active on my screen, but he's not.
I guess
Okay.
it is December.
So Cody has to
All
say.
right. Well, he's here.
I have no audio, video.
Not
Okay.
really.
Wait. Time out, Seth. Tell Cody to call in. Does Cody have the telephone numbers? He has no audio or video.
I can chat it to him.
That's what I'm doing right now
Click
too.
here.
Oh, he just sent it. Good. All right. Okay. So we have to wait for Cody to come back in. I mean, you still have quorum. So ask Seth what he wants to do. If
All
he
right.
wants to continue.
And
or-
Mark,
wants
you're
to-
here.
Mark,
Are you here?
I-
All right. Well, let's give him just a second here.
Joined.
Don't forget John.
Oh, good.
Oh, I said John, didn't I? Did I miss you, John? Should we just go around one more time?
Should we go right here?
So you should go, yes,
in the
right
roll
there. Oh, go to this one. Because that's, okay. Yeah, you should have been there. That's weird. Okay. And then admit Cody. You'll get the hang of it. And it'll be like, oh my God, this is so easy.
Okay, it looks like Cody's in.
Yes.
And
There
his
he is.
microphone appears to be working.
Yes, there we go.
All right, Cody, we
Present.
gotcha. All right, good deal. Cool. Roll call. Success.
Okay.
Let
All
me
right,
know
so
when
now
we're good to
you-
proceed.
Do I flag it?
Nope. Now you move on because roll call. So you just want to type, hold on one second, Seth. You just want to type all present. Okay. And click on to the next item,
Do I click this one?
which,
This check
nope,
mark?
nope, because you're not voting. It's just, they're there. Okay, now go to the next one and set current. Okay, now tell Seth you're on to approval. of the
I'm
agenda.
on to the approval of the minutes. Agenda.
All right.
Agenda,
Is
approval of
there a
the agenda.
motion? Agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Cool.
Scan.
Motion by Randy. Is there a second?
Wait, hold on.
This one.
So this is what you do. What? So sorry, everybody.
I know this is painful.
Wait, where's your thing? Oh, there it is. Okay. I'm so sorry. I'm all like all up on you too. So you do
No, you're
this.
good.
Add motion. Okay,
Initiated by Randy,
initiated by Randy and
seconded by,
Seconded by
Second.
John with the hand raised.
John.
Cool.
Okay. So
There's
then
a motion and
you-
a second.
to approve, adopt, accept, and save. Okay, then you click on this for the vote. Now Seth is going to call the vote. Call the vote, Seth.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay.
Okay.
Good deal. Good
Now-
deal. Approved unanimously.
Hold on 1 second. Then, so now when you, I'll show you how to do it. I'll stay and I'll show you how to do it. Like, it'll be easy. Now click to the next, click to the next, click to the next. Go ahead, Seth.
Alrighty then, on to item D, approval of the minutes.
So
Is
moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mark.
Hold on. Hold on. Save. Okay, now click the vote.
this one?
The,
This one.
the orange one.
Okay.
Go ahead, Seth, call the vote.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay. All right,
Save as passed.
motion
Okay, now go on to the next. Next. And click set current. Okay. Go ahead, Seth.
All right. Okey doke. Regular business. All right. Electric vehicle charging station update. Corey, take it away.
So I just am going to kind of start with a little bit of a recap of what brought us to where we are today and give you some more information that I found out since we last discussed this. So almost a year ago, on December 11th, 2019, Eland Electric presented a recommendation to the Sustainability Commission for spending $60,000 in excess stadium tax funding for solar projects in the city. These recommendations were based on prior discussions between Eland Electric and the city. And that was before my time with the commission, so I don't really know all those details, but I don't know that they're really important at this point. So at the meeting, the proposal was for the funding was to take $16,000 and replace the solar panels and inverter at Light Park and to repair the tracker mechanism so that they were functioning, resulting in an increase of energy output. It was also proposed for $22,000 to install as many solar panels as we could for Fire Station 5 to reduce the usage at that facility by roughly 13%. And also $22,000 to install as many solar panels as we could at Fire Station number 4, which could help to reduce the usage there as much as 10%. During that, or within that proposal, Eland Electric and Jesse Mikulski, who did the presentation, had stated that he would like to avoid the EV charger at Light Park so that we could use the same microinverters at every site to provide a scannable QR code and public link so that the people could view what kind of output that the city was getting from the solar systems. And so I have seen that monitoring tool. It is working, but I don't believe it's been made public. So I'm not quite sure what steps we need to go through to make that happen, but we're definitely capable of doing that. So at that meeting, the following motions were approved and carried, and one was to refer to staff to explore the installation of the solar arrays at fire stations 4 and 5. And then a second motion for the funding was to approve the installation of the Light Park solar array along with an EV charger. The installation is a replacement of solar panels, an inverter, and the repair tracker mechanism is how it read. And so that went to City Council and was approved. I do feel that it's a bit confusing because I think the second sentence there kind of reads as though we were just replacing what was already there, even though the first sentence did include the EV charger. So I just wanted to make note of that. I'm not sure how much discussion there was about it at that city council meeting. Looks like Randy is shaking his head, probably really not much, if any, perhaps. So I wanted to make note of that. Then let's see. Okay, so then in May of 2020, the solar array work was completed at Light Park. And as I previously mentioned to the commission, there were concerns from city staff regarding potential costs incurred from the use of the EV charger. And there was a decision made by city staff to not include the installation of the charger during the time of the other solar work. So the actual cost of the installation of the new solar panels, inverter, and the repair of the tracker was $25,635. So that means the cost of the installation was $9,635 over the estimated price that was given at that meeting back in December 2019. Then in September at our meeting, I tried to give some insight into the costs related to the Light Park energy usage and the amount of energy that the solar panels were generating. That question during that meeting as to whether or not the savings that were being generated from the panels was enough to cover the costs that we could potentially incur from the use of an EV charger. And so since then, I've been able to collect about 6 months worth of data from May 27th to November 29th. So we have a good idea now of what's being generated out there and what the usage is in the park. So the new panels produced 7,685 kilowatt hours of energy, and the park used 7,765 kilowatt hours of energy. So pretty close. That means the panels covered most of the kilowatt hours, but it did not generate enough power to cover all the energy costs. There was approximately 12.5 cents per kilowatt hour, the city paid out $10 for 80 kilowatt hours. But that also does not include things like the monthly billing fees that we incur from WPS, which is like the $45 per month, approximately, depending. It varies from month to month. So I did want to note too, I found it interesting to learn that the city is charged about 12.5 cents per kilowatt hour, but we are only credited about 3.5 cents per kilowatt hour, which is the wholesale rate that we receive for anything we generate over what we use. And so just wanted to point out that we should keep in mind that there are many variables to consider when looking at these ongoing costs. First being that this was a COVID year and the energy usage that was shown within the last 6 months isn't necessarily a great reflection of, how moving forward that energy usage could perhaps change. And that, of course, with different weather conditions, we may generate more power, we may generate less. It's kind of hard to say. So with all of that in mind, Jesse we did reach out, we had the discussion about, well, what about if we did a pay station? Then that could help alleviate the concerns of having to have the city or parks or whoever be responsible for perhaps charges incurred with that solar array. So I reached out to Jesse at Eland. He gave me a budgetary cost of about $3,500 to $6,500 to install a pay station, and that could vary depending on where we decide to put the charger, that sort of thing. If we installed it and it was on the high end, it would bring us about $16,000 over the original budget. And so I just wanted to make you aware of that, if we wanted to consider keeping the $22,000 for each fire station as originally planned, that additional, I guess we're over budget on Light Park already is what I'm trying to say. So Jesse has confirmed though that even though we did go over budget with the solar array at Light Park, that we have about $34,365 remaining, that it would be enough to cover costs for either two smaller fire station projects or perhaps one larger one. So I know Celestine and Melissa have recently spoke with the fire department department, and I think we're going to be getting an update from either one of them later. And so I think with that, I really am just ready to open up the floor for discussion or questions or anything like that. So.
I'd like to just dig into a couple things there. So thank you for the report, Corey, on the budget for Light Park. You mentioned the city getting the wholesale utility rate for any energy we generate over what we actually use. And it's my understanding that the utilities do that when an array crosses a certain threshold of, is it 20, I don't know, 20 kilowatt threshold. It's some kind of, I don't remember what the threshold is when they start to pay back the utility rate instead of the customer rate. But for the energy that we generate, regardless, for the energy we generate not above what we use, we still get paid back the customer rate, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
we will get what, wait, no, I'm sorry. Can you say that again?
We're getting paid back net metering, right? We're getting our energy use is offset. Our cost is offset directly by the energy that we generate. We're not getting paid back the wholesale utility rate if we're not going over the amount of energy that we use.
Yeah, so my understanding is, to kind of keep it simple, say the meter reading is at 100 at the start of the month.
Mhm.
If the meter reads, say, 200 at the end of the month, then we would pay the 100 kilowatt hour difference.
Yeah.
If, say, it was reduced by 50, then the meter would read at 50 versus the 100, and then we would be credited the 3 cents per kilowatt hour for those 50 kilowatt hours, I think.
Yeah, that's true on a large array. That's true on like a really large array. And I don't know that our Light Park array is large enough to only get back that 3 cents an hour.
That's what I was told by WPS. I spoke with Corey. I'm not certain of his last name right now, but that's what WPS had told me, was that the 3 cents per hour that we're getting.
If we generate more than what we use.
Correct.
Okay. And I know that is true over a certain threshold. And I think that that's a good reminder to us when we do projects to not build for 100% at this point, to kind of look at what is the 100% per month and then ratchet it down, go to like, 75, 80% of what we actually need. Otherwise we do end up in that position of overbuilding and possibly getting paid back not a great return on the investment. So with the electric vehicle charging station, we talked about this, I guess, a couple times since you reported this fall, as that kind of a project would entail a lot more kind of in-depth study and like that's a whole different project. Like it's a whole different ball of wax. And I think we kind of all came to the agreement that if we were going to do that, it would be something that wouldn't be free to use. It would be something that somebody would pay to use. So, yeah, I'm curious if that's something that Melissa, would be kind of under her purview to look further into, because we did build the project as we were going to have an EV charging station at Light Park. Coming back and looking at it a year later, I don't think we should have said it was going to be free. I think, learning from the guest we had from California a couple meetings ago, she drives an electric car. She expects to pay to use energy. And I think that makes sense. So I don't want the idea to die, right? But I also don't want it to come at a cost to the city, the taxpayers. Because if we're putting in something to generate energy, then it should recoup its costs over time. So I don't know, what the right, I think the idea would be more to recommend that we have staff look into of what are the actual costs over the long term of putting in an electric vehicle charging station at Light Park. If we were to buy into that system where people can charge their cars and pay for it at the park. So, if this is an action item, are we talking action on the EV chargers? Or are we talking action on the remaining $34,000 right now, or both? Could we come out with 2 motions from this item?
I mean, I think the most important thing coming out of this conversation would to just be to like have our minutes reflect that we want the remainder of the money to go towards the fire station money, the fire station solar projects, which I think we'll get an update on next. In terms of looking into EV feasibility, I think that's something that should definitely be on our radar. I guess in terms of like capacity, I know there's a number of other like clean energy kind of things in the works. So I guess I'm not sure if I agree it should be something we should look into and prioritize over the next year or so, but I would defer to Melissa on whether that's worth making a motion on right now, if that's within her capacity and the highest priority, or something we should just kind of back burner for a little bit while other things shake out.
I would say it's probably not the top priority right now, but Ned, I do think it is something that should, that I can keep looking into. And I've had conversations with a gentleman from our Department of Public Works that deals with parking. And we had a conversation with, I can't remember the name of the organization, but basically several years ago, it's like the Mayor's Electrification Coalition or something, and they offer technical assistance to municipalities. So I did have a conversation a couple of weeks ago with a representative of that company, or it's a nonprofit organization, and so I did receive some information to look at. I haven't dug into it yet. I think it's a broader conversation of where the best location would be. Maybe not, it might not be at Lake Park. It might be in a different parking area. So I don't want you to think that this is a dead issue by any means. That is totally not where my mind is. I think though that the action that we're looking for today is to discontinue, the idea of putting in an EV charging station at Lake Park with this funding that we have, the grant funding specifically for PV. So that's the action I'm suggesting we take tonight, to focus the remainder of those dollars on PV projects at one or more of the fire stations.
Thanks. Thank you, Seth and Melissa, for that feedback. I think the EV charger, it's still kind of a loose end out there. It's something we voted on. It's something the city council voted on. And I don't know that we've ever brought it back to kind of put it to bed officially, right? Staff made a decision in May. And I think it's probably the right decision if it was going to create some serious budget problems. But it's still out there, as the city council directed staff and Eland to put this charger in. So what would be the appropriate way for us to handle that loose end? Would it be to refer it back to staff?
No, I think that's what we're doing tonight. I think we are tying up that loose end with the motion.
I think too, to keep in mind, the funding is not there to do everything we wanted to do. So I think that's really the biggest item here that, needs to be considered as we move forward with whatever we move forward with is we don't have funding to do everything we wanted to do like we initially thought we did. So I don't know how we would do that without another funding source. This agenda item initially, was addressing projects with funding we had, but if we don't have the funding, then I don't know. I'm not quite sure.
And
Yeah, no,
my understanding is that the grant money was specifically for PV,
What is it? What's PV?
photovoltaic, for solar
Yes,
installations.
it was.
That was the intent of that the original $60,000
That's what-
from everything I've read leading up to this point.
Sorry.
So I guess is the appropriate motion that we as a commission recommend using the remaining stadium tax funds on the fire station PV projects. Yes?
project or project
Depends.
after we
Yeah.
listen. Yeah.
For the end of our
Depends.
next little bit here. So
Is there some important information we should hear first before directing it to one or more projects though? Or are we gonna have to make that decision next month?
So let me just reiterate that the original determination for this fund was to spend it at Light Park to replace the solar array, potentially add an EV charger, and then solar panels on one or more of city buildings. So it's already included, the one or more of city buildings. And yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Seth, I think
That
Randy
does.
wanted to talk.
yeah, Randy.
Yeah, we're still going forward with the solar lighting at Light Park though, correct?
No.
Or no?
Yes, that was installed in May. So the solar array has been upgraded already.
Oh, he said lighting.
Then I'll make a motion that we direct the rest of the funds to one or both fire stations.
Do I type
Second.
the actual motion?
Okay.
in? I mean, I'm gonna add a
By
motion
Randy.
right now.
So, sorry, hold on one second, you guys. Okay, so Randy made a motion.
Mhm.
And then somebody needs to second it.
I second it.
Okay. All right, so save it. And then, yep, nope, you want that one. Okay, then save. And then what you do is you type, just give yourself some notes there
Sure.
about what Randy said. Hold on one second.
Okay.
You can figure it out. Okay, all right. So now Seth calls for vote.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 I
Go ahead, click it.
This one?
Yep.
All those
the chat,
opposed,
And you can
say
click
nay.
our votes, yes. And then save as passed.
That's passed.
Okay. And then you can move on to the next one. And then I'll show you how to do the minutes. Man, I keep sliding down.
Okay.
All right, cool. Jumping on then to informational. Melissa, we've got you with some vegetation fun business. So take it away.
Sure. Okay. So, as you know, from a couple of months ago, we carried the Green Infrastructure Code audit over to this month. We've been working on seeking staff input on the noxious weeds ordinance, the amendments that were made to that, to the landscaping, code amendments, and stormwater were the primary areas that were addressed in the green infrastructure code audit. So what it's in your agenda packet. I'm not looking for any action right now, but I included that so that everyone that wanted to weigh in and offer feedback on the proposed amendments for noxious weeds can do so over the next 3 weeks. What I'm hoping is that you can provide written feedback. You can send your written comments directly to me. I'm compiling all the feedback that we get from staff, and now that it's in the hands of the commission, we'll be looking at that as well. And the main things with the noxious weeds, it did receive a preliminary grade, shall you say, of an A-. So it was already in pretty good condition, according to our consultant. The main areas that were addressed were the some of the provisions for if a citizen wants to do a natural lawn. So there were some things regarding that, and then also with what's considered a noxious weed. So there was some more language added in for that as well. If anybody has any questions, if you looked at it in the meantime, from the time I sent it out to tonight, I can try to address your questions. Otherwise, I can share my screen and go through it really quickly. I encourage you to reach out to me individually as well over the course before the next meeting in January if you have specific questions. I don't know how this is typically approached, when it's sent to the commission for comment, if everyone weighs in, or if there's just certain members that are maybe a little bit more tuned into this particular issue that will offer feedback. Anybody have anything to say at this point?
Well,
No?
I was going to say, Melissa, if it's just informational and you're seeking written feedback, I'm not going to tie up commission time with my suggestions. I will actually send you the suggestions that I've compiled.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the written comments because it'll be easier to incorporate if, depending on what the nature of the comments are. So I do request written feedback.
Great, thank you, Melissa. Anybody have non-written feedback before we move on to the next item here?
It's roughly 5 pages long, so it's not like, hours and hours of work, hopefully.
Wonderful, thank you, Melissa, for that. Randy, do you
I was
have a
just
thought?
happy that city alder wasn't listed as a noxious weed. I was very happy to see that.
Yes.
And you
Thank you,
said
Rand.
that, sorry, Melissa, you said that it's made the rounds in the departments and
Yes,
it's
more or less.
and
Yes,
more or less.
More or less, it has made the rounds.
I do have a question about the registration and the amount of planned natural landscapes that are allowed on a property, and maybe where those came from. Like how many? It says up to 4 planned natural landscapes may be allowed on any property.
Let me just pull it up so I can look at it while you're. Do you actually have it in front of you right now, Ned? What section are you in?
Section 6, letter A, I believe.
Registration required. That area?
That's
So
correct.
the way it's written right now in the code is that, and this is hard to read when it's all crossed out and all the markings are in here, so I'm going to do my best. But basically, any owner of a property and any tenant upon signed, yada, 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 may implement a planned natural landscaping area with the Department of Public Works. So right now it's written as may. which means that technically they don't have to register a project like this.
Right, okay.
So that was actually one of the things that came up today in a conversation with staff. So that is being looked at. If a required or a may is really the better approach to this.
Mm-hmm.
And then it says up to 4 planned natural landscaping areas may be permitted on one property with a maximum cumulative surface area of 300 square feet or 5% of the gross area of the lot, whichever is greater. So do you have a question on that, or is it a concern?
It's a concern. It's a concern. I don't know why 300 square feet would be the maximum somebody could have on their property.
It might be, I'm not sure if it, you know, I can't really say exactly why it was written that way initially, but maybe so that the entire front yard of a space can't be overrun. I don't know. That's just my, that's my gut feeling on that, but, oh, okay.
Is that four areas can be 300 square feet, so 1,200 square feet in total? Or no, it's reading?
I read it as a cumulative, as a maximum cumulative area. So 300 square feet would be the total.
And that's like 30 by 10. I'll send some written feedback on that one, but that one definitely concerns me.
Well, it does also say or 5% of the total gross area of the lot, whichever is greater. So it actually, I mean, this does allow for more than 300 square feet.
Or 5%. So it's an or.
Which is a strange combination. I mean,
I don't understand that one.
You know, and what I'll do is I'll go back and I'll talk to our consultant, JB Hines, and I'll ask her for a little bit more clarity on that. Because if we're having a hard time interpreting it, then the average person is probably going to have a hard time interpreting it also. So maybe there's a better way of writing that.
Was it restrictive before?
No.
So yeah, that to me though, that wouldn't have probably come from her. That would have come from city staff.
Absolutely. Yeah, when we wrote
And
it before, it was.
And you know, it's kind of funny to have a restriction on something that's planned. You know, or I mean, if it's the whole point of this is to have it planned, and then why I don't understand the restriction either. Or the registered, the required registration.
Well, the required registration, I think, draws back to a court case that the city got involved with some time ago with someone who had a planned, or I don't want to call it a planned area. I want to call it a natural landscape in their front yard that got out of hand. So the registration stems from that.
Yeah.
So that a plan can be approved. Because if you don't have registration, then it's hard to necessarily have an enforcement measure down the road if necessary.
I also see that as a concern as well. To me, it seems like a very minimal area that we would be allowing folks to do the naturalized landscaping. And I often do think about, well, okay, there's no restrictions for the amount of other vegetation besides turf grass. So as long as you have it plant, if you're allowed to have as many plants as you want on the lot, as long as they're arranged neatly in somebody's eyes, you know.
Right, and that's why
acceptable.
There has to be, you know, how this is written is that a plan indicating, you know, plant species or seed mixes to be used. So there is some specificity asked for in this. And then the types of plantings, there's some examples given in the code update, and some other requirements. For instance, edging. I mean, that's a broad definition. Edging can be an earth edging. you know, a cut-in edging or something like that. It doesn't necessarily have to be brick or stone or plastic or anything like that, but that edging, some form of edging is required. The plant height at maturity, there's got to be some, you know, so potentially so that it's not blocking views. And how close it is to the curb. It's not allowed in terrace areas. So as you go through this, you'll see all of some of the things that she suggest that the consultant is suggesting to be redacted, and then the additions. So I didn't send you the cleaned up version. I sent you so you could see both.
And I can't recall, were rain gardens considered a naturalized planting that you would need to get registered as well?
Let me see if that's in here.
Because then she has like something about.
I know, Corey, that there's a definition of a rain garden in there, which I'd have to defer to Julia in terms of maybe some of that language, because I do not think of a rain garden as an excavated area that is backfilled necessarily. I mean, and whether that's a plan, I believe it's somewhere in here else. It's part of the planned natural landscaping area, but yeah, it doesn't say that clearly.
Because with the amount of flooding the city deals with, I think we would want to make it as easy as possible for people to put rain gardens on their properties. So I think restricting it, you know, I think some restrictions are okay, but it does seem to me that it's being restricted maybe more than we should be considering right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think my whole yard does not fall under this amended code suggestion. So, yeah, I think I don't know where all the restrictions came from, if it was more open before, and what the actual need is to try to control plants. And it's just like, I don't know.
It was much more open before, from lot line to lot line, 100% of your yard could be, there was a lot of work. So that section is antithetical to all the work that probably we gave it that. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know where it came from, but it is definitely, it would sink the idea of using your yard or business, you know, a business using its yard as a way to counteract some of the flooding or provide pollinator habitat. Yeah, I'm kind of shocked that part's in there. But I do see that, you know, a 3-foot boundary from the right of way. I understand that if people need to get through, you know, that could make sense. But yeah, this is definitely way more restrictive than the original ordinance.
Which seems like it would make it more of a barrier and discouraging rather than encouraging. I know some in like other communities, you have like the registered things to more, maybe, you know, this one's based on a previous lawsuit here, which makes sense, but also to potentially deal with neighbors and complaints. And so then you, like, if someone calls, they can say, well, this is approved kind of landscaping that has been approved under code. But but I don't know. Who's gonna enforce that all too? I'm surprised that there's like limit with the plant lists too, because normally you would want to just have it more open so there's more flexibility on what you can do.
Yeah, it would seem in that last B, plan natural landscaping areas shall adhere to the following standards, and then types of plantings that are there kind of moves it out of the arena of being natural.
What section are you in, Mark?
Oh, on page, whatever this is, well, it's 6, planned natural landscaping areas, registration required. Under B, plan natural landscaping areas shall adhere to the following standards, types of plantings. As soon as you call it a planned natural landscape, and then you get into some strict definitions of what that natural landscape is, it's moving away from a natural landscape into a planned landscape, and it's not quite the same thing anymore.
Well,
Yeah,
I know part of this is so that we're not getting noxious weeds into the mix of people's home landscapes either. But I mean, even planned prairies have a planting plan. It's not all willy-nilly. I mean, there's a science behind that, and in a mix that's determined of what will thrive in certain areas. So I don't think having a little bit of direction on it is necessarily a bad thing.
But is that in code, or I don't know? If anyone's ever done, I mean, Gardner, if you know anything about gardening, it's not like something you plan out from day one and stick to.
Well, no, but I mean, it's for the sake of like, if you want to have like your, part of your yard deemed like a natural area for butterfly habitat or birds or whatever, and it's maybe going to be, quote unquote, more natural looking than your tulip border that comes up in the spring. I think that's what this is specifically addressing. And I agree. I'm a gardener. I've been a master gardener for almost 20 years, and I totally get it, Julia. Things just kind of, oh, I'm feeling this year. I'm going to do this or whatever. But it's, I think a lot of it's to address some of the issues with that the city's encountered over the years with yards and complaints and things like that. So.
Yeah, Melissa's right. There has to be some intention to use native Wisconsin plants. It can't just be letting a yard go to waste or a vacant lot, So and the Wild Ones group helped create this ordinance, and in part of their slogan is like, natural landscaping, or it's using those native plants. So there has to be some intent behind these plantings. And I think, anyone that's worked in that field understands, you want to use plants that are actually good for the environment, that are native for the environment. So I think that's okay to leave that.
So what I'm asking for comments is by January 13th, which is 1 week before our next planned meeting. Does that seem reasonable for all of you that will want to submit written comments?
Will we receive like an email asking or something?
I can definitely send an email out. I'll send a formal email out after the meeting to everyone saying, please, comments by January 13th.
That'd be
I
great.
just wanted to make sure with the holidays and everything going on, if that seems realistic for all of you. Okay.
Cool. Good deal, everybody. We'll move on to then item 2 under informational.
Because it's informational, so you can just go ahead and to the next one. Oh, I don't know what happened. Okay, wait, go to the next one. Go. Oh, okay, so yeah, so we're still in informational, right? Okay, all right. This is you. Okay. Seth, are you on to the update PV projects at city fire stations?
Yeah, let's do that. Take it away, Celestine.
Okay. So we had this project has been kind of hanging out there for a little bit, and thanks, yes. And got a little delayed because of the election, that small detour. So Melissa and I had a very good meeting with the fire department lead staff, their senior staff, on putting PV, photovoltaic, thank you, chargers, or not chargers, sorry, PV, thank you, on fire stations. And just referring back to the original analysis that Jesse Machowski had done, and then my intern, Maya King, had done some pictures. There were two well, there were really three buildings that were identified that were good candidates for PV panels. And one was the Baby Pavilion, the West Wing, where the shop is. Another was Arnie Wolf Fire Station, which is a number 5 across from East Town Mall. And the third one, and in no specific order, the third one was Station 4, which is by the Oneida Family Fitness on West Point Road. So when we talked to them about, the possibility of moving forward with these projects, they're very interested in moving forward. So our next step internally is for the fire department, because we're not talking about Baby Pavilion, we're talking about the fire department, is for the fire department to figure out roof needs. So Arnie Wolf, pros and cons of both Arnie Wolf and Fire Station 4. So pros and cons, pros of Arnie Wolf over 4 is that Arnie Wolf is actually more visible. It fronts Mason Street. There's a lot of cars going back and forth, East Town Mall, et cetera, et cetera. So Arnie Wolf is actually more visible. The roof space is about the same as it is for Station 4, right?
But there is absolutely no shading issues
at Station 5.
at Station 5.
Right. So the roof is newer. That's a pro. The roof is newer at Station 5, and there's no tree issues, which is funny for us as the Sustainability Commission to be talking about the benefit of not having trees around, right? The only time. So those are the pros of Station 5. The cons are that while it does meet the threshold of, I think, having a bill of $500 a month or more, it's not the fire department's most electricity consuming station. That would be Station 4. Okay, so now let's move to Station 4. Pros of Station 4 is that it's on Oneida Reservation. And as you know, we are still talking with Oneida for a cooperative governance agreement that was delayed because of the plague. And so we're getting back into those negotiations, thank goodness. I'm very happy about that. So this is an opportunity, I think, at least from my perspective, for us to do something potentially together. But the biggest benefit for Station 4 is that that's where they have their backup server. And the cooling equipment for the backup server consumes a lot of electricity. So that's their highest electrical need at Station 4. The cons are, the biggest con is that is a 20-year-old roof. So there is not a roof replacement currently in the capital improvement plan, I think, there isn't a specific plan to replace the roof on Station 4. There's nothing specific saying we're going to do this by August of 2021. So what the fire department has to do is to assess exactly how much life is left in the roof. If there's not a lot of life, how much would it cost? Is there money for it, etc.? That's a con. Another con is the amount of tree cover. That's all. It's beautiful, but that's a con over at Station 4. They are the most interested in Station 4, quite frankly, but I think the easiest one would be Station 5, even though in terms of payback, because that's what this is about. Let me just reiterate that the savings we get from these solar panels need to be put aside for maintenance and for other issues. There needs to be a payback. So the payback is bigger at Station 4 than it is at Station 5. So our next step, fire department they're going to, like I said, do some due diligence about Station 4's roof, and we'll meet again in early February. Questions? Yes?
I always have questions. The payback should just be based on the size of the array and how much it's collecting sunlight. So I think regardless of where that array is, it's going to be collecting the same amount, right? If it's in direct sunlight. So I think if it's at 4 or 5, it's going to generate the same amount of payback for the city at this point, right?
Well, it depends on,
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
it depends on how
No.
much potential shading there is, Ned, on those panels.
And when I say payback, I mean the ability to offset electric bills. That's what I mean.
Well, if the array isn't big enough to do 100% of either one of them, then it's gonna be fine. It's gonna generate the consumer rate. It's gonna get paid back based on the size of that array. So,
Okay.
so either way, we're gonna make the same amount of money back. We'd probably even make more in an unshaded area. 'Cause neither one of those is gonna be over capacity, right? We're not overbuilding an
No,
array.
Ned, I don't know if you can hear me or not. I'm
Mhm.
off to the side, but the proposal, that one-page proposal that Jesse from Eland put forth last December to the Sustainability Commission said that at those locations, it would offset approximately 10% of the electric usage.
Okay, good.
Okay,
Good.
So there's more electric usage at Station 4, sorry, than there is at Station 5.
right. So that's why the chief was more interested in
It's
putting it
Station
there
4.
because that bill is a lot
No,
bigger.
okay, I mean,
No, okay, so if we imagine, so we have 34,000 to put in solar panels, right? So however many solar panels that buys is how many are gonna go in. And it might get like 13% of Station 5s and 10% of Station 4s. It's the same amount of money at either place. It's the same amount of energy at either place, all things considered. Like, we're getting that block of solar panels for this money. So wherever you stick that block of solar panels, as long as you're not overbuilding your array, you're going to get the exact same amount of energy and cost savings back, no matter where you put that thing, as long as you're not generating over 100% of what that building uses. So my recommendation, I know we're not doing a recommendation, but I think it would make more sense to put it in an area that doesn't have that shading and roof issue.
Well,
'Cause-
okay,
yeah.
so just to back up,
Mhm.
the roof on station number 4, Eland specifically is aware of that shading issue. They're not going to mount the panels in a heavily shaded area. I'm just saying, so the east side of the roof line has no obstruction. So they recommend it on the east side, and then there's certain areas of the south roof that could also accommodate some additional panels as well. So it is still a good location. It's just not the entire roof can't be plastered with solar panels because you wouldn't want to put solar panels on the west facing side of the roof that's potentially going to have a lot of afternoon shade. So it's the plan's been thought out by Eland as far as how to maximize the production, even with some trees, to avoid those shaded areas. It just depends, over the years, trees get bigger. People have to make decisions. Are we going to keep those trees? Are we going to trim those trees back? So, those are all things that any project is going to have to take into consideration.
and honestly, the next step is to let the fire department come back with their recommendations.
I think it's kind of more in their court.
Yeah. And I think Station 4, Station 5, we'll see. We'll come back to the commission and report what the fire department has found. Through their own due diligence, it's their buildings. So.
But the good thing is they were very receptive.
Yeah, very.
There was not even any hesitation on their part at all. Some places are like, really? Roof penetrations? I don't know. They weren't like that at all.
Not at all.
So I think when you have a willing partner, that's always a great thing. And if it can help them cut down on some of their utility costs a little bit, I think that's a win.
Good deal. That's all very great news. Thanks for yeah, talking with them and looking forward to hearing what the fire station says. Any other questions on this item before we move on to item 3 and then adjourn?
Do we think we'll hear back from the fire department within the next month or so?
No. So the
No.
next step, nope. So the commission will hear back until, sorry. It is really hard to do this and socially distance. The next step is for the fire department to take a look at things. And then Melissa and I are going to meet with them again in early February. So,
February 1st, Ned.
yes.
That's the next scheduled meeting with the fire department.
And so, and so then for the February Sustainability Commission meeting, Melissa will have an update for you.
Awesome, thank you.
Excellent. Well, can't wait until then. Cool. Well, if that's all for item 2, item 3 looks to be pretty self-explanatory.
You don't have to
January
do anything,
20th
just move on.
next year
Yep.
at 5. And then
And
we'll move
then-
on to,
Oh, go back. Wait, go back. Okay, set current
No.
now. Okay. All right. And then, wait, you're not there yet. Wait, did he just adjourn the meeting?
No, not yet.
Okay, all right, sorry.
Just, okay, I think January 20th, just came up with other meetings, is inauguration day, and there's a lot of stuff planned, so it's not the best day to meet for anybody generally. So it might be worth, I don't know, that I know it's regularly scheduled for us, but just to point that out, it's not the best day to meet.
It's not gonna work. Let me just,
Okay. Just making a note, Julia, here, that that date might not be good.
I think someone had pointed out, like, most of the events online that day are like from 8 to 4 p.m. But so ours is a little later, but I don't know if people are taking, yeah, I'll just leave that there for that.
the third Thursday. That's the only available time.
Celestine is saying that we could potentially move it to the 3rd Thursday.
is that the 21st?
Let me just look. 3rd
Looks like it.
Thursday is the 21st.
That works for me.
You have to go, I'll show you how to change the event.
Okay. That was that so January 20th, was that a conflict for everyone?
Not
Yeah,
necessarily. but-
if no one cares, then that's fine. I just was pointing that out.
Okay. If it's not a conflict for everyone and we still have a quorum, then I would recommend that we keep our time. Okay,
I would recommend that as well.
okay.
Cool. Awesome. Well, then we'll move on to item G, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Were you going to do committee member updates?
It is not on the
Not on the
agenda.
agenda.
Next time.
All right, so I don't think we can do that if it's not on the agenda. Yes,
I'll add that to the agenda for next month.
cool. So I guess just adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
No,
Motion to adjourn.
And just, I was going to say, just to go back to that comment by Julia, can we make that a standing agenda item? Committee member updates, so that, I mean, it should be there. I mean, as part of our, I mean, that's what we're here as commission do, is to comment on bring up other things as necessary. And I think that's an important item to have on the agenda all the time.
Figuratively, I second that, but not literally, because it's not on the agenda. Cool. All right. Well, is there a motion to adjourn then?
Yes, motion to adjourn.
Andy, second by
Mark.
Mark.
Yep.
All those in favor, say aye.
Sure.
Aye.
Hi.
All
Happy
those
holidays,
opposed.
everybody.
You
And
too.
Randy,
Thank you.
it's not noxious. It's not noxious city
What's
council
the
members.
vote?
It's obnoxious city council members.
Wonder I couldn't find it in there.
There we go.
Let's go back to start.
Mark,
It's adjourned.
now I got
so
you.
can
With the bottle caps, those you put on for
then
water
click
bottles.
Set time.
What about larger containers like a peanut
You're
butter?
good. Now you want to stop
Put it
this
on the jar?
because I adjourned.
Any plastic container that has